Hi there, it's Kira here at Unfurl, and today's video is a follow-up to a video I made the other day, and the video I made the other day was about shame and how it feels in our bodies and how difficult it is to meet shame because it's so excruciating. And since I posted the video, I was thinking about the ways in which shame had impacted my life and the ways that it had kind of steered me without me even realizing, because of course I didn't even know that I was feeling shame. I had no idea. And the biggest difficulty shame created for me was not being able to be in a connected, intimate, loving relationship, because it was so difficult for me to let people see the real me and to know the real me, all parts, good, bad, the ugly, everything, was because I felt deep down, unconsciously, I was completely unaware that I was a bad person, and that if I showed my true self to someone, that they would not love me, or that they would get to know me and then leave. So my unconscious behaviors were to push down all the aspects of me that I thought made me bad. So what that led to was being in a relationship with someone who really couldn't see me, who was so caught up with their own inner wounding that they couldn't see me, hear me, or connect with me. And I spent a very long time trying to get this person to see me, trying to get them to hear me. If I could just explain it the right way, this person will understand, will get me. But it just was never going to happen. And now, having come out the other side of this really difficult piece of work, I can see how unconsciously I deliberately chose someone who was never going to be able to see me. There was a part of me that knew this person is never going to be interested in me. They're never going to be interested enough to look closely, because I didn't want to be seen. So I was stuck in the conundrum, which if you're wrestling with this yourself, you'll know that there's this longing, like a deep longing, which is so innate in all of us, to be loved, to feel the warmth of connection. It's our lives depend on it. So we have this very intrinsic need to be loved, and yet this desperate fear of being seen. We want to be seen, but we're afraid of being seen. We want to be loved, but we're fearful we're going to be seen and rejected as unlovable. So unconscious shame will keep us stuck in toxic relationships for a very long time. It's really hard to believe this, you know. When I was in the toxic relationship, in the difficult relationship, I truly believed if the person would just give me what I want, then everything would be okay. Our relationship will be amazing. So I really, really believed that. But it just doesn't work like that. It's our unconscious beliefs that are driving the whole thing, keeping us stuck with someone that in a deep knowing way, we know they're never going to be able to see us. And that's kind of how we like it. But we have no idea. Oh, it's so difficult. The other realization that I've had is that in those intimate relationships of the past, I wasn't really able to make eye contact with anyone. You know, I couldn't, those movies or books where, the lovers gaze, they gaze lovingly into each other's eyes. That gave me the ick. Like, that totally gave me the ick. I was like, oh, that's just so soppy. Oh, that just is ridiculous. Because I couldn't conceive of of it. There was something about it that just kind of repulsed me a bit. And now I understand why. It's because it would have been unbearable for me to let someone gaze into my eyes, because when someone is looking directly into your eyes, there's a sense that they're seeing your soul. And I couldn't have let anyone see my soul, because without realizing it, I felt my soul was so ugly that I had to keep a shield, a protective shield around me. I had to block people out. It's why I drank as much alcohol as I did. It created a sort of a mental haze to numb that anxiety that I felt about being seen. The other thing that I've realized is when we're unconscious of our own shame, how much we are telling ourselves mental stories about ourselves without even knowing it. That we are having this incessant inner dialogue about how awful we are, how bad we are, that we'll never do this, that we'll never do that, that we always do this, we always do that. Negative, negative, negative story. But we're so caught up in it, we have no awareness we're even thinking these thoughts. It's like we have an audiobook playing in our own heads that is telling a negative story about us. But we don't even know we're listening to that story. We're just caught up in it, identifying it, believing it's all true. So this piece of work really requires us to start noticing our thoughts, to start holding those thoughts in our awareness. Oh, what? Is that really true? Am I never going to be able to be in a loving relationship? Am I so awful that no one will ever be able to love me? Am I so needy? Am I so boring? Am I so whatever it is that we tell ourselves about ourselves? We really need to start noticing those thoughts, because we can't even challenge their truth if we don't even notice it's happening. So that's a huge part of this recovery work, is noticing our own thoughts, challenging them, and bringing in this kind part of us that goes, now hang on a second, that's a bit harsh. Do you always do that, or is it just sometimes? This more reasonable part sort of stepping in, just calming the whole thing down. Wait a second. Yeah, so what else about shame? Telling us these stories. Oh yeah, how harshly we've judged ourselves as bad for having needs. It's why it's so difficult to have a relationship. It's why we end up in that kind of codependent role, or the people-pleasing role. Because we unconsciously hold this fear that we're bad, or the sense of being bad, we've formed that opinion about ourselves because we had needs as infants and as children. And our caregivers got annoyed with us for having those needs or having those feelings. So we've kind of gone, oh, they must be bad. It must be bad for me to want love. It must be bad for me to want attention. This is making me a bad person because the person I love is getting upset with me and might not love me because I need them right now. I need them to give me attention. Okay, right. Okay, well, I better not need anything from anyone if I want them to love me. So this is all unconscious. All our little infant being is processing life. This is how life is. And then we go into adult relationships, and then it's like this codependent narcissistic setup. We're serving the other person's needs because we think if we give enough that it can sort of delete that inner story we have about ourselves as bad. But eventually our needs kind of surface because they're so human. We all have needs. But then if we're with a sort of a narcissistic partner, they'll tell us, you're so selfish. You're so mean, or, and they'll sort of judge us for this stuff that we've been judging ourselves for. And so we put our needs, we push them down again. And we just keep on giving and giving, hoping that we can outrun the story we have of ourselves as bad. It's all unconscious. It keeps us in this sort of hamster wheel in a narcissistic codependent relationship, trying to give enough to prove that we're really good, when secretly that's not how we feel about ourselves at all. It's a big piece of work, but it can be done. But it definitely requires having enough presence to catch our own thoughts and, if possible, getting out of that toxic relationship. Yeah, that's tough because there's so much glue, so much unconscious glue that is sticking a shame-filled person to another who also carries their own shame. But once you step out of that dynamic and then you start to have more time and space to look at your own stuff, that's when you'll become more aware of your own thinking, your own feelings. And rather than judging yourself for them or shutting them down, you can start to be kind towards your own needs, your own feelings, no matter what they are. Hopefully you have a therapist. I'll always say having a good therapist can teach you how to treat yourself. A good therapist will allow you your feelings, speak lovingly to you while you're having them, and then you'll start to internalize that towards yourself. Oh, I'm having a really bad day. Oh, I really want to punch somebody in the face right now. Oh, yeah, okay. It's okay. Don't need to punch anyone, but yeah, I can get that you feel that way. Life is a bit tricky right now. Can you hear? It's like just kind of being okay with whatever is. And then we can just start to be okay with our humanness. We're not that bad. Just human. So good luck. There's a lot of pieces to this puzzle of shame, but once you start picking it apart, the light can get in. Yeah. All right. Lots of love. Talk to you soon.